So I'm going to do an hour-long session here of gentle yoga. And come back and start from standing on my mat. And I'm going to start with about 15, maybe 20 minutes of just bringing a little movement and attention to each area of the body. You could do this from standing like I will, or you could do it from sitting in a chair or sitting on the ground, or even possibly from lying down. So, whatever position you choose to start in, you might take a moment or two to feel the ground beneath you, possibly shifting your weight a little forward and back, side to side, maybe, and seeing if you can feel your way to a position that feels fairly centered and balanced. If you're standing, you might spread out your toes and maybe see if you can feel the outside edges of your heels pressing towards the ground and the inside edges of your heels pressing down. Maybe keeping a little softness in your knees if you're standing. And then you might see if you can feel your pelvis with your hips right over your ankles if you're standing, sitting or standing, maybe with your pelvis level to the ground. And you might stretch your tailbone down and lift up along your spine vertically. So maybe a level pelvis, and also with your spine, maybe not tilting back or forward too much, but just kind of lifting up, seeing how that feels. If you want to, you could bend your elbows, take your hands out to the sides and down, and possibly with that, feel your shoulder blades coming a little closer together in the back and down. You might see if you can feel your ears over your shoulders and maybe the back of your head lifting a little. Breathing. As you breathe in, you might see if you can feel your whole torso expanding a bit. And then as you breathe out, maybe a sense of everything releasing back towards the center. Anytime you like, you might add in some arm movements. Maybe breathing in, stretching out your arms. As you exhale, you might come back to your heart. Something like this. Noticing where and how you feel each movement, and you're always welcome to change the movements, do the ones that feel helpful and like a good fit for your body in this moment. So it could be something like this. It might be at some point breathing in, reaching out and up, coming back, possibly something like this. And you could continue with these kinds of movements as long as you like. And you feel ready to go on. One possibility might be to bring some attention to your face. So you could massage your face with your fingers, feeling into each area, or you might feel like you just want very light contact, maybe tapping or some other light contact with your face. You could massage and release. If you feel like pressing in more, you could massage and release the muscles of your jaws and maybe around your cheekbones. You might stretch out your jaws if you like. There's another way both to bring attention and feel into your jaws, but also to release tension in those areas. If you want to, you could open your eyes widely and circle them. And you might feel the muscles of your eyes circling in one direction and the other. You might feel the muscles of your eyes stretching and strengthening a bit. You could stay with that. If you want to, you might rub your palms together and bring them somewhere on your face or maybe over your ears. Sometimes this can be nice. I usually like to take them to my eyelids and forehead. So maybe without pressing in, just kind of feeling that kind of contact and breathing. You're welcome to stay longer with your face. When you feel ready to go on, you might feel maybe along your hairline a bit and up into your scalp. Here too, you could have just very light contact, or you could press in some more. See what your scalp would like in this moment. Sometimes it might feel nice to use your knuckles and kind of massage your scalp with your knuckles. And then another possibility is to put your hands on top of your head and press your head up into your hands for a few breaths. Maybe feeling the compression on the top of your head. And you might come down and feel the back and sides of your head a little more, possibly lifting the base of your head and the back. You might come down and massage your neck if you like, along your cervical spine and the muscles on both sides. Other possibilities for your neck might be grasping these muscles and the skin, kind of pulling it in diagonals. Sometimes help release tension around your neck, and also grasp around the base of your neck and draw forward. And then anytime you like, it might go into moving your neck and feeling your neck with movement. So maybe extending and flexing, lifting and lowering your chin a few times. That would be one way to feel into your neck. Another possibility would be rotating, breathing, maybe feeling into this range. And maybe a little side flexing, lifting one ear and lifting the other ear if you like. And then if you want to, you could take your head to one side, maybe go to this one, and breathing and releasing the sides and back of your neck, and maybe your shoulders as well. You can come out at any time, or you could stay for this countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when you're ready, possibly going to the other side, feeling to the edge of the stretch, maybe letting your shoulders relax downwards, breathing and releasing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you might come back up, maybe find some movement if you like, possibly then taking your chin down towards your collarbone. And you can push your shoulders downwards or soften them here. And you might see if you can feel your chin getting closer to your collarbone as you breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then coming up, maybe a little movement, maybe taking your chin down towards your other collarbone, breathing and releasing here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then coming up. You could continue moving your neck, or if you'd like one more of those, you could drop your chin to the middle and breathe and maybe release in this direction. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then coming back up, you might see if there's any other movement you'd like for your neck. One possibility would be to draw some circles with your nose, something like this. Breathing, seeing how that feels for your neck. Another possibility would be to draw infinity signs with your nose, something more like this. Breathing and feeling that. Coming back to the middle when you feel ready to. You might then come into your shoulders. And I'm going to do a little squeezing and releasing of the shoulder muscles, but you could go right into circling them or other stretches. You want to squeeze and release. You might lift your shoulders and squeeze them. Maybe breathing in as you do that, breathing out, slowly releasing them. feeling that. I'm going to do it 2 more times. Squeezing if you like, slowly releasing, noticing how that feels. And if you like, you could go in the other direction, maybe pushing your shoulders down and slowly releasing. And maybe again, pushing your shoulders down, slowly releasing. Maybe once more, pushing down and releasing. And then if you like, you might bring your shoulders to the front, forward, and really squeeze your rotator cuff muscles here. And then slowly release and feel that. And then here, maybe pushing back, squeezing between your shoulder blades, breathing out and releasing. And now maybe with the other arm on top, you might come forward, squeeze your shoulders, and slowly release. Maybe pushing back, squeezing, and releasing. And you're welcome to continue with squeezing and releasing your shoulders if you want. When you're ready to, you might come into some circling, possibility. Maybe circling both shoulders a few times. And then if you want to, maybe finding some movements into each shoulder individually, or you could do similar movements, moving both shoulders at the same time. So here you might feel around the edges of these circles with your elbow. See how that feels in your shoulder and around your shoulder. Maybe some circles with your hand lifted. Breathing, feeling that. You might straighten your arm and reach if you like. Step away from my wall for that. See how this one feels now. And if you like, maybe taking this arm out to the side and up, and then coming across and feeling that. And then if you were moving just one shoulder, you might go to the other shoulder, or you could continue to move both if you'd rather. Maybe circling this elbow and feeling where the edges of these circles want to be. Breathing. You could keep your fingers on your shoulder, or again, you might circle a few times with your hand lifted, if you like. Maybe straightening out your arm and reaching, feeling that. Noticing where you're feeling this. And then maybe taking your arm out to the side and up and coming across. And you might feel this, around your shoulder blade. I'm feeling it in my upper arm and in my rotator cuff muscles. And then you could continue like that, or you might go to some circles with both elbows, maybe keeping them out to the sides, or possibly bringing them towards the centers. And possibly pedaling here, one direction and the other. And if you like, you might go to some circles where you reach to the opposite sides. Feel that. Breathing. And you could go on to other areas if your shoulders are tired. I'm going to do a few more things, just a couple more things for shoulders here. Maybe some swimming movements. Those can be a good way to feel into your shoulders and strengthen. Maybe something like this. Maybe doing the backstroke if you like. Something more like this. Breathing. Breathe this one. Doing the backstroke with both arms moving together. Be, for me at least, it feels really good in my shoulder blades, between my shoulder blades, and in my pectoral muscles. So I'm going to do one more thing for shoulders here. I'm going to do this series that starts like this. Again, you could skip over this if your shoulders are tired. Possibly breathing in here, breathing out, hugging your shoulders, choosing if you want to keep your head upright, or if you want to, you can drop your chin. And for a few breaths, you might see if you can create a feeling of expansion between your shoulder blades as you breathe in. And maybe soften a bit between your shoulder blades as you breathe out. And if your chin is down, you might see if you can also soften the back and sides of your neck. And you're welcome to stay here as long as you like. If your chin has been down, at some point you might lift your chin and maybe go to lifting and lowering your arms while still hugging your shoulders. Possibly breathing in as you lift your arms, maybe breathing out as you lower them. You could continue with a movement like that. If it works for you, you could do something where you take the backs of your hands together or the fronts. Maybe breathe in and out, lifting and lowering with your arms twisted, your forearms twisted around each other here. Another possibility would be to open up and hold your elbows. Breathe in, maybe lift, maybe breathe out and lower here. Noticing where you might feel these movements. And then at some point, if you like, you might take your forearms up and maybe explore taking them side to side a bit. Breathing, feeling this. You can stay up here as long as you like. At some point, you might start to bring your forearms down, drawing them gently to one side and to the other. And notice if you can feel those movements maybe affecting different areas around your shoulders and shoulder blades as your arms slowly come down. Feeling that. And maybe taking some circles here with your forearms. Feeling around the edges of these circles. And then when you're ready, you might come back, look at which arm is on top, maybe breathe in and open, and breathe out now, bringing your other arm on top, either keeping your head upright or dropping your chin, your choice. And once again, for a few breaths, you might see if you can create a feeling of expansion between your shoulder blades as you breathe in, and maybe some softening and release between your shoulder blades as you breathe out. And then if your chin is down, you might see if you can also release the back and sides of your neck. At some point, if your chin has been down, you might lift it and maybe come back to lifting and lowering your arms. Possibly breathing in to lift and breathing out to lower. You might stay with this kind of movement. At some point, if it works for your body, you might try bringing the backs of your hands together or coming around a little further and then lifting and lowering your twisted forearms, your forearms, which are twisted around each other. Again, if that works for you. Breathing. And then another possibility would be opening up, holding your elbows with the other arm on top. Maybe breathing in and lifting, breathing out and lowering. And then eventually here too, you might come up and explore taking your forearms to one side and the other. See where you feel that. I'm feeling it around my shoulder blades, definitely down my torso as well. At some point, maybe then drawing your forearms to one side and the other as you come down, breathing. And then once you're down, maybe finding some circles here with your forearms, and now with the other arm on top. And when you're ready, you might come out from there and then maybe take some of these circles, reaching to the opposite sides. You might roll your shoulders, see what other movement you would like here. And then from there, I'm going to go on to hands and arms. So if you'd like, you could begin to bring your attention there, maybe stretching out your fingers and then squeezing them together a few times. You might close your eyes now and then. See if that helps you feel where you're feeling this. So you could stretch and squeeze your fingers. You could bring each finger to your thumbs. This. If you want to, you might take a moment or two to massage your thumbs and fingers. Massage, you can also stretch them a little if you want, using the thumb of the other hand. So maybe a little massage, maybe some stretching for each thumb and finger if you like. Might massage the palms and the backs of your hands a bit. And here too, if you find anything that wants some more attention, you can stay with it longer. If you want to, you could bring a little compression and massage up into your forearms. Something like this. Seeing if there's particular areas that feel helpful. For me, it's often right in here. So giving a little attention to one forearm and then maybe the other. And then if you want to, maybe just a little squeezing in your upper arms up to your shoulders, feeling that. And then from there, if you like, you might find some hand stretches, possibly this one. Again, if it works to take long, slow breaths, you might do that when you can. Feeling these, maybe intertwining your fingers and pressing forward. And from here, I'm going to take my arms out to the sides and do the stretches and strengthening movements where you make fists and lift and lower your fists. So you could do that with your arms out to the sides. You could do it with your arms down here or in front of you, if that ever feels better to you. So you might lift and lower your fists. You might take them to the back and front a few times and feel that. And then if you have your arms in this position, you could open your palms towards the ceiling and then maybe rotate your arms and explore this range. So this is another one where the bone structure in people's arms can differ. So the range, and that can affect the range of movement for rotating here too. You could try rotating in opposite directions if you want. Maybe shaking that out. Here I'm going to go to some pushing and pulling. You could stay upright for that or tilt your pelvis and lean into it. Breathing, maybe pushing until you feel it in both arms and hands. And pulling back until you can feel some squeezing between your shoulder blades. You could stay with this one. Or if you like, you might go on to pushing one arm to the back, pushing the other arm to the front, feeling that. And maybe pushing up with or without lifting your heels off the ground. You could also try pushing one arm up and the other arm down. Notice how that feels for your arms and hands. And you might also feel this in your torso. And then maybe breathing in at your heart, breathing out, pushing to the sides. And here also, if you want to, you could lift your heels off the ground. get my feet. There we go. Feet even and in the picture. Here we go. Something like that. And maybe palms out, fingers down. And maybe lifting your flexed wrists and lowering your extended wrists and feeling that. If you like, you could take your arms to the front and find a movement that you like and maybe take it out to the side. And one more for arms, if you like, could be this one where you bend your elbows, bringing your palms towards your face, fingers coming together, and then pushing your arms forward. So I'm doing this, backs of my hands together, pushing forward, spreading fingers and pushing to the back. So elbows, wrists, pushing through, pushing back, and breathing, feeling where you feel that. Be able to feel these movements all along your hands and arms and shoulders. And coming back from there, maybe going on to some torso movements. You could continue, do more for your hands and arms if you want to. With torso movements today, I'm going to start with extending and flexing. And I'm going to start with squeezing and releasing. As I do that, squeezing and releasing my muscles. But you could do it where you just go right into back bending and flexing without squeezing your muscles if you'd rather. If you want to squeeze your muscles, you might find a back bend and see where you can squeeze all along your back. And then as you breathe out, maybe releasing to a more neutral upright position. You might do that again, squeezing the muscles along your back, slowly releasing, noticing how it feels to release them. You could continue with your back like that, or you could go forward, either flexing your spine like a cat stretch, so spinal flexion or hip flexion, and then see if you can squeeze the muscles on the front of your torso. Breathing in, squeezing, breathing out, releasing. That's one way to breathe with the squeezing and releasing. Again, see what works best for you. But seeing if you can squeeze where you can on the front of your torso and then release. Maybe one more time. Squeezing and releasing. And you could continue to squeeze and release on the front and back of your torso. Or anytime you like, you could go into some extending and flexing without squeezing the muscles. Maybe breathing in as you extend, and here you might breathe out, possibly as you come forward and flex. Another possibility here would be to bend your elbows. Find a cactus arm back bend and maybe hug your shoulders and flex. And you might continue to extend and flex longer. When you're ready, maybe coming to the sides of your torso, bringing some attention here. And here I'm going to squeeze and release again. But you could go right into side stretches if you'd rather. You want to squeeze and release. You might bring this shoulder towards this hip and squeeze along this side. And then slowly release and feel that. And then maybe going to the other side, squeezing and releasing. Think if you can really get curious about how it feels to contract those muscles, squeeze them, and how it feels to release them. And where you might feel that too. I'm going to do it one more time. And you could continue to squeeze and release along the sides of your torso, or at any time if you like. You might find some side stretches, maybe something like this with your hands down Another possibility would be side stretching with your hands interlaced, fingers interlaced behind your head. Here I can feel the stretch a little higher along my ribs, although I also feel it in my hips. So seeing where you feel this, you could continue with your hands behind your head. Or if you like, you might do some movements where you reach one arm up and over and see where you feel that. One more possibility for waking up the sides of the torso here might be taking both arms up to one side, both arms up to the other. And if your chest is facing forward, that'll be a little more of a side stretch. Anytime you like, you could turn your chest to each side and take this more into being a twist. Feeling that. And you might continue to twist like this, or maybe some other twists. Here, I'm going to step forward away from my wall. Another possible twist would be lifting here and then turning one arm forward and one arm back. And with standing twists, you can keep your hips fixed facing forward, excuse me, or you can bend your knees a little more and let your hips come around to the sides. Basically, bending your knees can be a good idea if you're bringing your hips more around to the sides. So you might see how you want to be with your hips. Here, I'm keeping mine forward for a few moments. Here, I'm going to bend my knees and let my hips come around to the sides. And again, it just kind of changes a little bit where the stretches are going and where you might feel them. So those are some twisting possibilities. Sitting or standing, you could tilt your pelvis, do a twist like this where you lean forward and then come around to each side. I've got my knees a little bit bent as I'm doing this. If you're standing and you want to, some other possibilities, let's see, would be this one with bent knees, kind of bobbing up and down a little, turning your chest to one side and the other, flopping your arms against your torso here if you want. And another one would be stepping farther apart and coming up on the toes of one foot and onto the toes of the other foot. Breathing, noticing where you're feeling this. So here you might take your arms and hands to different levels to bring the stretch to different areas of your torso. And then coming back to the middle when you're ready to. Possibly some upper body circles if you like. You can make those the size of your, excuse me. Let's see, I'll start that over. So maybe some upper body circles. And you can make these any size. You might feel it one way if the circles are fairly small. Like I can feel my core muscles a little more when I'm making these small circles. And then you could try making some larger circles. Notice where you feel those. So I feel this more in my back and sides when I go to the larger circles. It might be different for you. So again, seeing what's true for your body as you're moving here. At some point, you might come back to center, and if you're standing, you could do some hip circles, keeping your head in one place, circling your hips around one way and the other. And then if you are standing, you might come to standing mountain, find your center line, bring it over one leg, and move and feel into one hip. And here, if you've been sitting, you could lie down on the ground, possibly on your back, and move and feel into your hip joint. So standing, there's usually kind of a range of things I like to do. Usually if I'm lying on my back, it'll mostly be circling, for me anyway. I like to circle into my hip joint. And you can circle into your hip joint from standing also. And of course, it's fine to put your hand against a wall or against a steady piece of furniture here. And then if you want to move away from my wall again, you could, if you're standing, flex from the hip, bringing your knee forward and then pressing back. So flexing and extending at the hip a little and feeling that. And then from there, you might come down that same leg, bend and straighten your knee a little, feel it to the front, maybe out to the side. And you might bring some movement and attention to your ankle, circling, maybe extending and flexing. You might flex and extend your toes a bit and wiggle them. If you're standing, maybe pushing your toes into the ground and circling your ankle here, if you like. And you might lift your toes and lift your heel of time and feel that. And then finding your center if you're standing, centering over your other leg, moving and feeling into the second hip joint here. Again, finding the movements that feel like a good fit for your hip just now. You might circle into your hip joint. And if you're standing and you want to, you could flex and extend at the hip and feel that. And then you might flex and extend your knee. See if you feel that in your knee joint and in the muscles of your leg. Maybe taking it out to the side a few times. Move and feel your ankle. Move and feel your toes, flexing and extending your toes. Like this, maybe wiggling them. And then maybe pushing your toes into the ground and circling if you're standing. If you're standing, you might also lift your toes off the ground and then lift your heel and feel that. And then coming back to standing mountain. If you've been down on the ground and you want to, if you feel like it, you could come up to standing. And into standing mountain again, maybe taking a moment to feel your hips over your ankles, shoulders over your hips, ears over your shoulders, and the back of your head lifting. Maybe taking a few breaths to check in with how you feel in your body and in your whole being after bringing some attention and movement to each area. From here, maybe going with me to a forward fold if you like. You could start in standing mountain, tilt your pelvis, move your pelvis with your torso, with the rest of your torso. So maybe gliding your hands down your legs to get there. Or if you like, you could breathe in and reach up. Maybe breathe out, tilting your pelvis. And might come down with your hands above your knees. Or, it could be that if you breathe in, you might be able to stretch your tailbone and head away from each other. And then breathe out and maybe come down a little further. You can stay as long as you like. So anytime you feel ready to come up, of course, you're welcome to do that. If you want to stay down here a little bit, one possibility would be to come into stillness mostly and just breathe and release with the exhalations. So maybe releasing your neck and shoulders and down your back, sides and front. As you're exhaling, you might see if you can release around your gluteal muscles and the backs of your legs. So if you're in stillness, your hands could be on the ground or on your legs, or you could choose to hold opposite elbows in your hands. You're welcome to continue in stillness. If you want movement, some possibilities would include bending and straightening one knee and then the other, or bending and straightening both knees. You could also explore breathing in, lifting your torso about halfway so you're parallel with the ground, lengthening, breathing out, coming back down. So sometimes lifting and lengthening and coming back down might feel good. Or another possibility would be taking your hands to one side of your feet and to the other side. When you're ready to come up, if you haven't already, you might come back to the middle, stretch from your tailbone to the top of your head, push your feet against the ground, and maybe kind of slowly come up, possibly reaching and coming back to your heart. Again, you might check in, take a breath or two, take any movements you'd like. When you're ready, maybe stepping a little wider apart for Brahma Dandasana here. So it's a little wider than a mountain stance with your pelvis also level to the ground, vertical upper body, hands at your heart. And then when you like, maybe taking your arms out and up, palms together. You might bend your knees, press your tailbone away from your head, sitting back, hands to your heart, pushing your feet against the ground, reaching up, and then maybe tilting your pelvis and folding about halfway down with your arms out like open wings. From there, you might reach your arms back, lengthen your spine, and then take your hands to the fronts of your legs, keeping your hands there, lifting and lengthening and coming back down. You might lengthen your spine, take your arms out like open wings, push your feet against the ground as you come up, reaching, coming back to your heart. Taking a breath or two, maybe letting your shoulders relax, feeling your knees softening. Maybe I'm going to do that again with optional breathing cues. And as always, you're welcome to breathe in any way that feels like it supports your movements. So possibly breathing in with this movement, palms together, maybe exhaling as you sit back, lengthening your spine. You might breathe in, pushing against the ground, reaching up. And breathe out, tilting your pelvis, folding about halfway down. From here, reaching back, maybe breathing in and lengthening. And you might breathe out, bringing your hands to the fronts of your legs, keeping your hands there. Maybe breathing in as you lift and lengthen. Breathing out to come back down. And then arms out like open wings, lengthening your spine. You might breathe in, pushing your feet against the ground, reaching. And exhaling, coming back to your heart. Taking a moment here, again, to move in any way you like to move. And then, I think from there, today I'm going to go to a Warrior One practice. So if you like, you might go to the front of your mat. You could be facing your screen or you could be parallel with it like I will be. So maybe near the front of your mat. Here we are. So maybe mountain position. When you're ready, you might step one foot back. If you like, see if you can feel your pelvis level to the ground, possibly with a wide enough stance to let your hips and pelvis be parallel with the front of the mat. That's one way to position yourself for Warrior One. And you're welcome, of course, to find the leg position that you prefer. With your torso upright, you might then bend and straighten the knee in front. Maybe seeing if you can bring it more or less over your ankle, maybe not much beyond that. When you're ready with your knee towards being over your ankle, you might find maybe some arm movements here. So this would be one possibility. Breathing. Another arm possibility. Hands at your heart, breathing in, opening, breathing out and coming back with a vertical spine, or you can add in a little bit of a back bend if you want to. And then another possibility would be to take your arms up, palms forward, squeezing your shoulder blades together as your elbows come down, with or without a back bend. And then upright. You could keep your hands at your heart. You could take cactus arms with bent elbows out to the sides. If you want, you could take both arms up parallel with each other or bring your palms together. And you might look forward or up. So in your warrior one position, maybe breathing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you might reach, come down, bring your weight over the foot in front and step out and take a little movement here. Coming back to mountain when you're ready. And then eventually you might step your other foot back. And once again, check that your pelvis feels level to the ground, possibly parallel with the front of your mat. Upright spine, bending and straightening the knee in front. And noticing where you feel this. You might feel it in your hip flexor muscles on the side with the leg to the back. You might feel it in your back, in your low back, possibly. Eventually, bringing your knee more or less over your ankle. Maybe then finding some arm movements for this side. And breathing. Probably something like this, with or without a back bend, your choice. Maybe taking your arms up, palms forward, squeezing your shoulder blades together as your elbows come down. And this one also, you can have your spine more vertical or go to a back bend. And then with a more vertical spine, an upright spine, you could have your hands at your heart or cactus arms. You could take your arms up parallel with each other or palms together. And maybe look forward or up. And in your warrior one on this side, breathing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reach and come down, bringing your weight over the foot in front, stepping out, finding some movement here. So, possibility, if you're standing, I mean, you probably are standing at this point, a possibility would be to circle your hips. That was a possibility that occurred to me because it's what my hips wanted. But sometimes coming out of a warrior practice like that, you might feel like circling your ankles or shoulders, seeing what feels helpful to you. And let's see here. I think I'm going to suggest going to a goddess sequence and then some sun breath after that. And then maybe coming down to resting. No. Choop, choop. Okay. Okay. So if you like, you might take a little bit wider stance here. I'm going to go to a goddess sequence. And you can do this one very slowly and meditatively if you want, or more quickly if you want to expend energy or build energy, or you just feel like moving more quickly for any reason. So I will do each of these. I'm going to do 3 movements. Each one I'll do more slowly 3 times and then more quickly 5 times. And you could have a stance like this. I think I'm going to go a little wider today. Toes maybe lining up your knees with your middle toes. So toes out to the sides a bit. Like, here's the goddess. Breathing in. Breathing out. Here's an optional sound you could make, but it's optional. Here's another movement, hands together, breathing in. And then tilting your pelvis forward, making a big circle with your arms as you fold forward on the exhalation. So I'm going to breathe in again and breathe out. And if you like, you might breathe in and reach. Maybe exhale down somewhere in here. So it could be more up like this or further down. And then here you might breathe in again. As you breathe out, pushing your feet against the ground and coming up. And then from there, maybe going to some sun breaths. With sun breaths, as you breathe in, you might lift your arms. As you feel yourself breathe out, lowering your arms. So as you breathe in, maybe lifting. As you breathe out, lowering. And you're welcome to go at your own pace. Your eyes can be open or closed, your choice. And you could continue like this. Or if you like, you might take your hands to your heart and breathe in and open. And breathe out and return. Be following your inhalations and following your exhalations. And you could continue like this, or if you like, you might combine those. And in that case, breathing in, lifting, maybe breathing out and lowering. Then you might breathe in and open, and breathe out and return. So as you breathe in, maybe lifting. As you breathe out, lowering. Breathing in and opening. Breathing out, returning. Take a moment then to breathe. Once again, maybe checking in with your internal weather, noticing how you're feeling in your body after doing that. And if you like, maybe going to a balancing practice, and then I'll come down lower on the mat. If you'd like to do a balancing practice, you might find your center over one leg, simply going to tree, toes on the ground or the sole of your foot against your calf. It might help a lot to really push this foot into the ground, this one. Push this knee towards the back a bit. So back that way. And then coming in and out as needed, finding the arm position of your choice. So it could be here, be here. You might breathe in your tree for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And coming out, finding a little movement, finding your center again, centering over your other leg, and finding your tree on this side, toes on the ground, Maybe the sole of your foot against your calf or against your inner thigh if you prefer that, but not against your knee if you can avoid it. Pushing this knee to the back, pushing this foot into the ground, and then finding your arm position of choice. And again, you might breathe, come in and out as needed for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming down, taking any movement you like. I am going to now come down onto my mat. If you want to, you might come onto your back here and maybe take a few moments to see if you can feel your shoulders broadening a little, shoulder blades moving away from each other on the ground. See how you'd like to position your legs. If your knees are bent, you can experiment a little bit with how close you want to bring your heels to your pelvis or a little ways out. So finding a position maybe that has some sense of ease. And for a few breaths, you might see if you can let your whole spine settle down towards the ground. You're totally welcome to come into stillness mostly at this point. If you'd like some more movements, there are various possibilities. One would be to push one foot into the ground and then the other. So as I do that, it's taking the compression on my low back side to side. Sometimes that can help to release tension in your low back, pushing one foot into the ground and then the other. Another possibility would be to rock your knees side to side. And I'm doing this with my feet out at the sides of my mat, but you could have your feet much closer together or farther apart. So you might rock your knees side to side, something like this, keeping the same foot position or maybe changing at some point and rocking your knees with a different foot position if you like. Another possibility here would be to take your feet off the ground, hands on your knees or on the fronts of your knees, and maybe go side to side. You might like going forward and back. My body doesn't do this one very well, but some people like to rock a long ways forward and back. You could also draw circles with your knees in one direction and the other. And then possibly, if you like, you might take a twist before resting, or see if there's some other stretch that you'd like before resting. If you want to twist, one way to get there would be to keep both shoulders on the ground. Come up on one hip, bringing your knees to the side. One knee could stay lifted, or you could bring your knees together, or you could straighten out the bottom leg. And for a few breaths here, you might inhale, see if you can stretch your tailbone and head away from each other just a bit. And then as you exhale, maybe release into the twist. Just seeing where you're feeling this, where you might feel ready and able to release. When you're ready to go to the other side, you might try lifting just the top knee first, and then your bottom knee, adjusting your body on the ground, maybe taking a little movement so now you're centered again. And when you're ready to go to the other side, you might come up on your other hip. Again, one knee could stay lifted, or you could have your knees together, or you might straighten out your bottom leg. And again, for a few breaths, you might stretch your tailbone and head away from each other a little as you breathe in. And then see where you might feel ready and able to release, if you want to, into the twist as you breathe out. And when you're ready to come out, again, possibly lifting your top knee, then your bottom knee, adjusting your body on the ground, maybe taking any other movements you'd like here. And then if you would like to have a guided resting practice, you're welcome to do your rest in any position that feels restful to you. So, one possibility would be something like this. Another would be feet at the sides of your mat, dropping your knees together to support each other. You could have straight legs that are close together, or straight legs and arms that are out to the sides. You're also welcome to rest face down or lying on your side or sitting up. I'll just take a few minutes here for a resting practice. Anyone who would like that. As you find your way into your resting position, you might take a few moments to scan through your body, see if there's anything you want to shift or adjust in your position so that you feel well supported by the ground and really able to release and rest. Possibly slowing your breathing a little. You like, you might bring your attention to your feet and legs for a few moments and maybe see if there's anything you'd like to do to help your feet and legs be able to let go and rest. So it could be adjusting the position in some way, could be squeezing and releasing some muscles now and then, or being in stillness. Then for a few breaths, you might explore what you can feel in your feet and legs and see if you can feel resting sensations. And then as you're breathing, be getting curious about how resting might be feeling in your feet and legs just now. Noticing any qualities of those resting sensations, qualities that you might feel. Maybe softness or openness or mint or something else. It could have a sense of flavor or texture or temperature. When you're ready to go on, you might bring your attention then into your torso. And here too, see if there's anything you'd like to do to help your torso be able to let go and rest. For a few breaths, maybe exploring any resting sensations you might feel just now in your torso. See if you can feel resting along your back, maybe along your sides and your front, and maybe deep within your torso. Breathing at your own pace whenever you like, noticing how resting might feel just now within your torso. And if you like, you might bring your attention to your shoulders, your arms, and your hands. And with stillness or movement, see if you can help your shoulders to let go and rest, and your arms and hands. Breathing, maybe exploring how resting might feel just now in your hands, arms, and shoulders. And if you like, you could bring your attention to your neck with stillness or movement, maybe helping your neck to let go a bit and rest. You might see if you can release the little muscles along your scalp, letting your scalp come into resting as well. Maybe releasing some of the tissues within your head and feeling them, letting go and resting. And for a few breaths, you might see if you can soften and release and rest the muscles of your face. Maybe resting your forehead and eyebrows. Breathing, maybe resting your eyes and your eyelids, and your nose and cheeks and ears. With stillness or movement, you might see if you can release and rest your jaws and your mouth and your chin. Maybe taking a few more breaths here to travel your attention through your head and your neck and back down through your body, exploring any areas that might feel restful to you just now. And of course, you're very welcome to stay resting if you like. If you want to come out of your resting practice, you might open your eyes if your eyes are closed. You might find a little movement, maybe hands or feet, arms or legs or torso. If you were lying down, maybe rolling to one side for a few breaths. And then in your own time and in your own way, you might come back to sitting upright again if you want to. If you come back to sitting, maybe taking a moment again to check that your pelvis feels fairly level on the ground. Maybe your tailbone reaching downwards and lifting up along your spine. And you might choose to sit mostly in stillness for a few breaths here. Or if you want to come back to movement, maybe bringing your hands to your heart, possibly breathing in as your arms come out to the sides and up. Maybe exhaling as you bring your hands back to your heart. And if you like, you might take a moment to center yourself in some intention or some quality of being where you'd like to be centered. Could be something like a sense of calm or love or gratitude or creativity, strength. It might come to you not as a word, but as a feeling or an image or a piece of music. So just if you want to, you might take a few moments to imagine this intention or quality of your choice flowing all through your body. And maybe imagine it flowing in you and through you and out into the world all around you for the benefit of all beings. May we help each other cultivate kindness towards our bodies, clear thinking, open hearts, peace within us, and peace in the world. Thank you for sharing the practice, and I wish you peace.